Welcome to Broadcast Map, the show that covers the world of broadcasting, the Canadian media landscape, sports media, the show's favorite sports teams, as well as news and politics. Here's your host, Ali Musa.
Good evening on Wednesday, July the 9th, 2025. Wow, there's a lot going on in sports, and I am joined here by Simon Bennett, who also does some work for the Marlies as well, and of course, you do hear him on Rogers News Radio in the mornings as well. Simon, thanks so much for taking some time. It's always a pleasure to chat sports with you.
Always a pleasure to chat. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, anytime. Now, we're going to go all the way back here to what was your initial reaction to the Penguins getting when they dismissed Mike Sullivan, and of course now he landed with the New York Rangers, of course.
I wonder if it was a mercy killing for Sullivan. I mean, I'm kidding, but I mean, if you look at where Pittsburgh's going right now. And, you know, it's really interesting in the offseason it is the NHL. There aren't that many teams that are, for lack of a better word, going to tank or have a bad. Usually there's like maybe 5 or 6 teams are going to have bad years. And I think maybe you can count on one hand how many teams for sure are going to stink next year. And Pittsburgh might be that. And it's incredible that I'm saying that with a team that has, at least for now, Sidney Crosby, the generational GOAT. So, I mean, for Mike Sullivan, it was probably time. You know, they're looking to rebuild. You know, and and excellent coach. And I think look out for the Rangers. The Rangers are a talented team that had a lot of stuff happen to them last season. So I think it worked out well for him. He wasn't unemployed for long. I don't think anyone expected him to be, but I wasn't surprised. Obviously, they're looking to the future, and the Penguins are rebuilding. And I don't know if Sullivan really wanted to be around for that. He did everything he could for that Pittsburgh team and has a couple of rings from there.
Are you surprised though that Dubas, that it didn't happen last year? That Dubas didn't replace Sullivan last year because his guy Dubas, when he was let go by the Leafs, was on the market there before the Devils got him.
It's funny. I almost wonder if, and I don't know, but I almost wonder if Dubas not going with Sheldon Keefe might be good for both parties so that they can prove they can work without each other. I mean, you want to go back to, right after Dubas got promoted to Leafs GM, the Marlies won the Calder Cup, and he built that team. He was like the Marlies GM as assistant with the Maple Leafs. And it was Sheldon Keefe passing off the Calder Cup to Dubas, and it might have been the loudest the place got that night, but I think it's interesting. The Leafs made it to the second round. We can talk about how bad that was against Florida, 6-1. But Keefe wasn't. It wasn't Keefe. Keefe's Devils got knocked out in the first round, but I think it's also apples to oranges comparison. They were dealing with injuries, all kinds of things. So I think long-winded answer to that is it might be better for them if they're not in the same front office, but you have to know that if something goes awry for Sheldon in Jersey and things don't go terribly well for the Penguins, and this could be like 1 or 2 years down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd be working together again.
No, I wouldn't be either, because of the fact that, see, I was surprised that he didn't grab Brendan Purdom when he left, but Brendan Purdom seems to be an important part of the Leafs organization right now.
He's the cap genius. I don't know what math degree he has, but they rely on him for the capology, how to make it work. And I think they've considered him an important part of the organization. And I'm sure he feels that way too. Otherwise he wouldn't be there anymore. But no, he's a big part of what they do.
Yeah, now what do you think? Now let's start there. Let's now go into the Leafs' second round exit yet again. Well, at least they made it to the second round, but I say yet again because here we are with an early exit. Or we were.
Where do we where do we start? I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about number 16, now number 93 in Vegas. I think it wasn't just them losing in the second round. I mean, look at Florida. Florida is an animal, literally. Like, they could go on and win 2-3 more cups. They locked up all the free agents, the big ones that they had that were on expiring contracts. And it's incredible what they're doing, what they've done. They have a style of play and the right players for that style with the right coach for that style that's just working. And they're just unstoppable right now. It's incredible what they're doing. I think the way it ended for the Maple Leafs, 6-1 in game 5, 6-1 in game 7, fans booing them off the ice. It was ugly. And I mean, the Leafs have had disappointing finishes to the season in recent years, and we can, like, underachieving in the playoffs, obviously. But I think, they had to do something. And the interesting thing is, Mitch Marner's gone.
He is.
But you don't replace him. You don't replace those 100+ points. So one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to be a step back, maybe one step back that takes 2 step forwards kind of thing. See how this coming season goes with a bit less scoring. Or they just gel better as a team. And this is not a shot in Marner. I think just him removing him from the equation changes, like Brad Treliving, Leafs GM, said, changing the DNA slightly of the main parts of the roster. And it was also interesting, if you listen to 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman, that's like my one must-listen podcast. He made a point. He said other Leafs had told him, like depth players, that because it was so much focus on the core 4, the other players didn't really know their roles or didn't really feel appreciated or like they were a big part of the team. I wonder if Marner's departure with now the core 3, core 2, whatever you want to call it, I wonder if that changes the dynamic in the room, but we'll see. They had to, and it's also going to be, we got 2 months until training camp, so who knows what else they do, but something had to change, and it was probably time. As unfortunate as it was that Marner left the way he did, good on Brad for getting something back in the sign and trade. Nick Waugh's a good player. He's not Marner, but he will contribute. He'll be useful to the Maple Leafs next season.
I felt it was personally time, though, that Marner, exit. I think it was his time to leave Toronto, because I think it was clear while he did exercise that no movement clause at the trade deadline there, when they were already where they wanted to trade him for Mikko Rantanen, which I honestly would have liked to have seen that, by the way. But I felt that, and the reason I felt that he wanted out of Toronto, that is Marner, it's the way that he was with the media. I was never a fan of with how he presented himself to the media.
I think the big thing for Marner, and I've never met the guy, I don't know, but like, I think the thing for Marner is he'll be able to go to a Walgreens in Vegas, wherever in suburban Nevada, wherever he is, and he'll be able to walk in and out of the store and get milk and not be bugged by anybody. And I think it was getting to the point where I'm sure people were yelling, "Hey, why you get knocked out in the first round again, Mitch?" And why are you scoring? Like, I'm sure he heard it a lot from fans. As players also say, they try to stay off social media, and he was big in saying, "Yeah, we block out the noise from you guys. We block out this." If you say you block out the noise enough, you're telling yourself that, and you're probably not. So, I think going to Vegas, which has its own internal pressure because they're expected to win every year internally, and that's why they got him. I think if you look at just how Vegas is in the whole stratosphere of life in Vegas, it'll be better for him. And the whole thing with the no trade clause, people forget his wife was literally almost due with a baby. It made a lot of sense to not accept the trade. It was his right. It was a contract. You can look back to 2 years ago when maybe there was talk that they were trying to move off the core 4, but they didn't, and they didn't get anything going before his no trade kicked in. Maybe that's where you could look back as maybe a missed opportunity. The one that happened this spring, His wife was pregnant. It made total sense for him to say, listen, I'm going to be a dad in 3 weeks. No, can I not be traded like far, far away from my wife? That totally makes sense.
Sure, and I mean, yeah, that I think did because, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, but see, and he had some he had some interesting. I think he had an incident when he was in Toronto. I think when he got his phone got stolen from his car or something, he had that incident too.
Wasn't it like he got carjacked outside the movie theater? It was like 2 or 3 weeks after they got knocked out as well. It was like in the spring, whatever. It was like, yeah. And I forget what happened, if they actually knew that was Mitch Marner or if it was just a random carjacking outside some random movie theater. Like, let the guy see go Top Gun Maverick. Like, seriously, leave him alone. But no, he's had a lot happen to him. A lot has happened, and he's sort of been, it's unfortunate. He's kind of been the whipping boy for everything the Leafs have done, or not done in the playoffs. So I think it's time the two separate, schedules coming out next week. I'm very curious to see when Vegas comes in and what the reaction is, because I don't think it'll be, I think it could be very much like what John Tavares heard in Long Island when he went back there. It could be interesting.
Yeah, and he signed again. He I mean, of course with a salary cut, but he signed again.
He likes playing her, and I think what JT and to an extent Matthew Nyes did in the last couple of weeks is what Kyle Dubas had hoped Matthews, Marner, Willie would have done last go around of the contracts, where I think he was kind of hoping they would take a bit of a discount and so they could sign other guys or they could keep Zach Hyman or whatever. I mean, they got what their NHL value essentially is. So you can't really totally blame them for that. And the salary cap went flat because of COVID. But it's ironic that the cap's now going to start going up, and the Maple Leafs, I forget where maybe it was Steve Dangle was saying this week, they shouldn't be in a rush to fill that cap space. Don't fill it right now. Just leave some spots open and see what comes up as the season goes. But yeah, to your point with John Tavares, had a really good season. I don't know how much of that was the pressure of not being captain anymore, or if it was just he had a really good year. Was super classy in the way he handled the pass off of the C to Austin Matthews last summer. And I think when you look at it, he wanted it to be here. They wanted him. It's less about money and being happy. And I think everyone's happy there.
I think he wants to finish his career in Toronto.
I think you're right. I think he understands this is he's from here. You saw when they signed him way back initially, the Instagram picture of him in the Maple Leafs bed sheet. See, Toronto is in his blood. I think he would be very happy finishing his career in the blue and white.
And Shanahan was also he that was not a surprise. Shanahan being dismissed. What did you think of that?
I'm like you. I don't think we were surprised. I think it was a combination of, the lack of playoff success, plus with MLSE changing primary ownership, and it seemed to be, although that seemed to be a trend around all the teams, but the Raptors are replacing Masai. So I mean, I don't know if that's what it is, but I think if you look at how they wanted to run the club and have one less layer, and then you add the playoff failures to it, I think it wasn't surprising. I think Shanahan does deserve a lot of credit for what he did do. And, he helped bring pride back in the blue and white. It was a big part of the centennial celebrations, a big part of the sort of process to get the team. I mean, for all that the Maple Leafs haven't performed in the playoffs, they've also made the playoffs 9 straight years. There was a time when you begged for that. It's funny how times change. Someone go look at the 80s. Someone go look at the aughts when they missed for a dozen years in a row, right? Like, so he did a lot of good. But maybe, I wasn't surprised when it happened either.
No, and also, too, I mean, yeah, and I think it's interesting, though, because now I remember hearing that that he was a smart guy he did a lot of good for the branding side for the Leafs.
Well, I remember there was that video. Oh God, 2015. When did they do that? 2016, before the season changed over, and he unveiled the logo. And the logo they have now, it's like it has the Leaf is 13 points because of the 13 cups and all that stuff. Like, no, I think even though he never really played for the Maple Leafs, he understood as a Mimico boy, understood the heritage of the blue and white, and he I think that was a big part of his job as well.
Yeah, he brought the identity back, but he also, not only did he bring the identity back, but I mean, some of his decisions, like when it came to the hockey operations side, were questionable. But but I think he does, as you just pointed out, for bringing the identity back to the Leafs. I think is where he deserves the credit.
Absolutely. And also, like, as my bosses Rogers will tell you, the Leafs as a business are thriving, worth over $2 billion. Everything's just fine. The next step is getting them. And for all those that would ever say, well, they're not spending money on a cup winner. Well, first off, the cap doesn't let you overspend on players, but also, and it's a really ridiculous notion, because if they did make the cup final and won the Stanley Cup, then think about how much money they'd make in just interest from those who are casual hockey fans, and Maple Leaf Stanley Cup t-shirts being sold everywhere. And I mean, look at what it did for the value of the Raptors, right? So
yeah,
I think I think the Leafs as an entity are doing great.
Yes.
The playoff, and but they're listening to the fans now and noting that, it's time to make some changes with all these playoff failures, and we'll see what happens.
Yes, and exactly, yeah. But I thought that the playoffs were a lot of fun in general, though. I really enjoyed the NHL playoffs this year, and I mean the rematch there, the Panthers and Oilers rematch. I thought it was interesting, although the Oilers looked flat on their last game. But
the playoffs are great. I mean, there weren't many bad games. I think. It's funny because you talk about, parity and how NHL teams are competitive, and that's the way they wanted it. But then you had the same matchup in the Stanley Cup final. Great for Canadian fans with another, it obviously didn't happen, but, a chance at a cup for a Canadian team. It hasn't happened in over 30 years. And then, Connor McDavid is worth the price of admission every time he plays, right? So he it's almost a shame that McDavid hasn't hoisted a cup yet. He's had 2 cracks at it. But when the rematch was set, as good as Florida was, I think a lot of us was like, there's no way McDavid with his drive is on the wrong end of a Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row. And yet there we are, because the Panthers are just a wagon. But no, the playoffs are great. I'm an old school guy. I wish they were over by early June. I think they go way too late. When it's the longest day of the year and it's summer and everyone's like your kids are having freezies, and all of a sudden it's still hockey. A bit late for me, but no, the playoffs were good. They were fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, because I enjoy the NHL, I think for me, and you've got, I think for me, it was a lot of like, I mean, I would have, I mean, it didn't go right to Game 7, which I would have loved to have seen it go to a Game 7.
I think if they had somehow gotten to Game 7, the Oilers would have won it. I think with the home advantage.
Yeah.
But they faltered at the wrong time. And if you look at how Edmonton plowed through competition to get there, like they made LA, LA always gives them trouble. But then what they did to some of the other teams on the way was just super impressive. Some really good teams they beat on the way up there.
Yeah. And also, they also got... I think they also knocked and the Stars were knocked out, and the Jets as well. I thought they had a really good year too.
The Jets were fantastic. I mean, it's unfortunate what happened to them against Dallas, but the best game maybe in years was Game 7 against St. Louis. That tying goal with like barely a second left. Like that was one of the most exciting games I've ever seen. But no, it'd be interesting to see where the Jets are at in the fall without Nikolai Ehlers, who comes up with those 20 or so goals next year. But the Jets had a great run, and you want that market to have a successful team because it's so much fun watching the fans react to them, especially after it's been over a decade since the Jets have been back, but how the city has embraced them since returning.
Do you see the Jets staying around in Winnipeg?
I think so. I think, if they're talking about Atlanta again, in expansion, I can't see how, but I think what might happen in certain markets is people are, it's hard-earned money that's harder to come by. Everything's got the cost of living has just gone up, right? Like everything just costs more.
Yeah.
Life costs more. And I wonder if that's what happened with the Winnipeg Jets. The Maple Leafs are at a point where they could chart the way, everyone complains about the ticket prices, and yet they still sell. The Winnipeg Jets may have hit that ceiling where they might have to look at their ticket prices. I don't know. I don't really know what Winnipeg ticket prices are, but I think, if you have a good team, they'll be out there on the ice and it'll be fine. Everything's fine. I think Winnipeg is still worth a lot as a franchise, and they're popular in their city. And if they, it's unfortunate that they haven't sold out, but the bottom line for NHL teams is more than just that, and they'll be fine.
Atlanta, yeah, no, I thought I heard somewhere they were talking about Atlanta again, but I don't know. Interestingly enough, but if Atlanta does come back, will they, in your mind, come back as an expansion team, or will a team relocate for that?
Well, before Arizona moved to Utah, maybe that could have been an option, relocation. I think, and Gary Bettman has been saying in recent weeks that he's not in a rush to expand, but they're listening too. Like there's Houston, a big market. Houston and Atlanta both are big U.S. TV markets that don't have teams. Houston has teams close to them in Texas, but Atlanta's a big market that doesn't have an NHL team. They've tried twice. Apparently there's a deal in place, or some kind of deal in place to get a new arena built. We'll see what happens. The NHL has been, all those who doubted the NHL will be successful in certain cities. You take Arizona out of the equation, and everywhere else it's worked. The Florida teams have been successful. Dallas, the teams in Southern California. So it makes sense for Atlanta to be successful. Whether they are, the draw for NHL clubs is the expansion fees. I saw a report. The expansion fee this time could be over $1 billion to be split between all the teams that just get that free money. I'm sure there's a financial incentive for NHL teams to get that expansion cash. We'll see. The other thing with Atlanta, when the Thrashers came in, they were never good. They had Kovalchuk. They had moderate success, but they were never a contender, really, right? And the way they've done expand with Vegas and Seattle, especially with the Golden Knights, they've set it up where they can be successful right away if they do things correctly. And you look at what happened with Vegas, lesser extent Seattle, who were good their first year and tailed off a bit. But, it's not like the old days where you expand and then you're expected to be awful for 5 years. Like, these teams could be good right away, given the NHL structure and how they do it with expansion clubs.
Do you see Gary Bettman sticking around?
Well, how old is he? He's like mid-70s, right? So, there will be an end eventually, but he has shown he hasn't said anything about retiring. The joke around NHL circles and some podcasts I've listened to is that he is just going to be there until he dies. He's not. I don't see him going anywhere. Obviously, a time will come, but it's not anytime soon.
I see Bill Daly taking over.
Well, either that or Bill Daly steps aside too, and then they have a whole new brass. Bill Daly would be an excellent commissioner, and he does a lot of the work already. But who knows? Bettman has to decide to walk away first, and there's no indication he's doing that.
I don't know, but but there's been a lot of the NHL has been very as a business, they've been very successful under Bettman, as well as and they've expanded as well. So I think I think it'd be okay if he stuck around for a little while.
Oh, the NHL's fine. I mean, some will complain it's not in the stratosphere of the NFL in the States. If you look at it, hey, they just signed a Canadian TV deal over $11 billion, right? So, I mean, the game is successful. The league has expanded. It was 21 teams when he started. They had just announced, 23, because Ottawa and Tampa had just joined the league at that point. But they were the growth the league has gone through in all the years he's been there. You can't take that away from him. He will decide when he steps aside and retires. No one else.
Yeah, and of course, we were talking about the Jets there, and then we had that final game, their final game of the playoffs. We had the Mark Scheifele situation of his father passing. I mean, the fact that he came out and played, I think he did it for the team and for the fans.
I mean, that was unbelievable, right? And then watching and then you saw when that game ended. And it was that devastation where like the reality just kind of set in around him. You had to feel for him. It kind of reminded me of and he scored, right? He scored in that game. It kind of reminded me of, remember many years ago, the Green Bay Packers when Brett Favre was in his prime and his father died. Was it like the day of a Monday nighter or like the night before? And he played and had like one of his best games. And then the emotion came out after. But no, it was super impressive what Scheifele did. And I think any team would be happy to have a guy like him.
I think he's back in Winnipeg this time. I think he'll be back in Winnipeg this year.
Oh yeah. No, he's sticking around. He's a big part of what they do.
Yeah, and the Stars. We're going to circle back to the Stars here. Pete DeBoer, do you see him ending back up in the NHL again?
I can't see him being unemployed for very long, but I mean, right now there are no openings. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what teams that are supposed to be good struggle, because there's going to be some. And I'm sure, I mean, you know how it is with NHL coaches. There's always, usually around November, December, you start seeing people, front offices that are not happy make changes. And that's where you might see DeBoer step in. The way it ended for him in Dallas, I'm sure he'd be okay taking some time away as well, just refreshing himself.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because I think he certainly, I mean, he's a good coach. He had a really good, especially in the regular season.
Well, and went to he got as far as the conference final. They got as far as they did, and yet he was fired based on how things went in the clinching game and how he pulled Jake Ottinger and how players didn't like how that went down. So, it was one of those things where, and I'm sure he was frustrated and mad at the situation when it happened, and then it all came back. And it appeared, based on reports, that it was after they had their locker clean out and one-on-ones with players, and they were asking, so what's going on with Pete? And, how do you feel about him? And that's when they probably made the move. So, Pete DeBoer is a good NHL coach. The Stars are a good team. And, he'll be back.
I'd like to see. Now, do you feel like should he have spoken to, like, I was listening to a podcast, actually the Locked On Stars podcast, where at the, like, just after it happened, and the host was saying there that they should have that Pete DeBoer should have talked to Jake Ottinger. Do you what are your thoughts there? Do you feel he should have done that?
Well, it was the way it was handled, right?
Is that the way to go about it?
Well, I mean, it was the way it was handled at the time on the night. And then clearly there was some issues there. And clearly Ottinger was unhappy about it, of the way he was pulled and how it went down. And, I mean, you would like to think that the two grown men could have ironed out their differences. For all we know, and I don't follow the Stars every day, for all we know, there could have been issues between coach and players long before this, and this is just the one that became the most public. But, if it was a situation where pulling Ottinger in the knockout game the way he did lost the room or lost some of the veterans, there's no going back from that, even if he and Jake ironed it out, which I believe they said they did, right? Like, it was one of those things where, heat of the moment in the playoffs, it happened, and then the ramifications extended way beyond what was expected for DeBoer.
Yeah. Now, with Masai leaving the Raptors, and of course, we also touched on Shanahan also leaving the Leafs with, of course, with Keith Pelly kind of coming in here and last year and actually this year kind of taking sort of more. He came in last year, but this year kind of having more of that piece there. With Masai Ujiri let go as well by the Raptors, is this a turnaround for the Raptors as well?
We'll have to see. I mean, the thing about the Raptors and with Masai Ujiri, it was pretty clear he was not totally done with rebuilding, but I think they've had some bad, they coming up a couple of really bad years. I think they're ready to move on from that. And that's why he got Brandon Ingram, who obviously hasn't played a game as a Raptor yet, but he's supposed to make them better. They have their sort of top five in place. Like they've locked up Jakob Poeltl. They've got Scotty. They've got IQ. They've got, all their top guys in place that should be the team of the next 4 or 5 years. Now the question is, now that they've had a year to mature, how fast can he get going? And with Ingram, how much does that improve? And we're really not going to know the answer to that question until Ingram actually plays. It was funny. I was looking at summer leagues getting going, and they have their first summer league game in Vegas tomorrow, Friday night as we talk. And Ingram's out there taking shots in Vegas. So I get the impression he wants to be there. He wants to, it was also intriguing that the way Masai left, he knew a month before that he was on the way out, but he hung around through the draft and contributed to the draft process anyway. So, I don't know if anything, it's maybe the Raptors are ready to move up. It's not that hard to make the playoffs. If you get the play-ins, it's the top 10 in each conference, right? You can get a play-in spot if you're half decent relatively easily. So, I mean, like I say, it's easy, but I don't know if it's a turnaround for Raptors. I think it's just a new era. I mean, it also depends on who because they're replacing Ujiri, who the new boss is. If it's someone that Bobby Webster, the GM, is excited to work with, who would put in for you in that situation? Is it a new set of eyes to, a different coat of paint, some different ideas up top when it comes to building the roster? I mean, the Raptors have had some of it not their own fault, but they've had some rough years since the championship year. I think they're ready to contend again mentally. It's just a matter of whether these guys, is this the team that can do it? We'll find out pretty quickly in the fall.
But, I mean, it could be a very similar situation where Ujiri is not replaced and Bobby Webster is given that more of a hand.
Well, Bobby's getting interviewed for the president's role, so maybe he gets it, and then he hires his new GM or brings up somebody that into the GM role. So it could be him. Who knows? It's interesting because when the news broke that Masai was out, I just assumed it was what the other teams were doing. Maple Leafs not replacing Brendan Shanahan. TFC New Argos not replacing Bill Manning. He was let go last year. He ran both clubs. So the initial thought was it was, following the trend of what ownership is doing with all the teams, but they do plan on replacing him. So they're treating it differently. For all we know, maybe, they don't hire a proper president and Webster's just sort of that role. Maybe he's executive vice president and GM or something like that, where he has both roles without really knowing how busy that job is. I'm guessing very, it could just be Bobby running things, but we'll see. He's a smart guy too.
Yeah. And, a lot of things too. Like, I think I think now, I mean, you're going to see, I think Brad Treliving for the Leafs, I think have more, I mean, he's got more of that hand. I think Berube is back as well. So
Everyone's back. Yeah. And I think what I've been seeing is that they think Berube will have a bit more of a say in how the team is built, how he wants the team to, the team that he's coaching. He'll have a bit more input with Brad. And I think Pelly's just going to be very much not hands off. He'll have the final say on a few big things, but he's going to let the teams do what they do. He wants to be in a position where he trusts all the executives in their roles to do it all. And I think that's where he wants to be. So I think Tree Living will have almost carte blanche to do what he needs to do. And, when they try and sign Connor McDavid next year, that's the one he has to run. But, oh, wait, sorry. No, I don't. Can you imagine?
I think it'd be, I am, yeah. Yeah, no. Pelly's a smart, now Keith Pelly's a smart guy too. He's a smart guy.
Well, he's been in the sports bit, he has been doing some kind of sports something his whole life. He was at TSN for a long time. The job he had between running Rogers or Sportsnet and coming back to Toronto was he was in charge of the European PGA Tour. That would have been quite the job, dealing with golfers and traveling around Europe. Like, that would have been, what a job that is.
Yeah.
Like, where are we going this week? Oh, we're going to Spain. Oh, yeah, let's go there. Where are we going next week? Oh, we're going to Portugal. Oh, sweet. Life of a president. I get paid to do this, travel all these places. I'm sure it was a lot of work. But no, he has done a lot. It's also funny, like, whenever you hear Pelly's press conferences, you always kind of, my time in the European, when I was at the EPGA, and we dealt with this problem. Like, he brings that up all the time.
Yeah.
Like, his background is extensive. It's good to have us. Not that guys like Lou Wiki weren't sports people; they totally were. But he's he understands the sports business. He understands sports broadcasting. He understands how sports teams are run. So he's a good guy to be in there.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think he's gonna, and I think he will. I think he's gonna try to, honestly. I shouldn't say it, but I think he's gonna try to streamline some stuff when it comes to the broadcasting side.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the big. I'm assuming he'd be the one making this decision. Joe Bone's retiring after this coming season. Imagine being the guy to fill his massive shoes. So that's the decision he'll have to make. But I mean, I don't know if he's going to stream things down. I haven't heard anything behind the scenes. He's going to stream things down. I think he's obviously looking at every aspect of the business that is ever evolving. And I think one thing that isn't changing is knowing where most of the Leafs broadcast will be, because Rogers has re-upped very long time. Yep.
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I mean, yes, I mean, certainly too. And I think, yeah, and we mentioned there, those are a couple of my favorite podcasts as well. Dangle and 32 Thoughts.
Dangle's blood pressure must be through the roof. Like, he just yell. He's just, I feel bad for the guy. No, I worked with Elliot at the Score way back. That guy's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. He is so good at what he does, and just going on the long weekend and talking about how he was able to report possible tampering accusations against the Golden Knights regarding Marner and why, and as a reason that they were going to work out a deal. Mind blown. But no, both exceptional shows. Steve and his guys, they've made this a business. That's what they do. That's their jobs. That's all them now. So, excellent programming, both of them.
Yeah, they do a good job. I don't know if you're familiar with the Locked On crew. They do a great job as well.
There's so much good content. I haven't listened to Lockdown enough.
Have you heard of them?
Much. Maybe.
Yeah, the Locked On network.
They have there's so much out there. Like, it's not hard to find good content. That's just how it is, And
and I mean, I like the local guys too. I like the Toronto. I like the I do like Elliot. I do like Kipper and Bourne are pretty good though. They're pretty good as well.
No, they're all really good. And even the guys like all over the dial. Like, I mean, there's a lot of talent. I mean, the kind of complaint a lot of people have about Toronto, especially, is how oversaturated it can be with media.
Mm-hmm.
But it is there's a lot of talent out there as well. It's not hard to find something that's good to listen to when you're in the gym on the treadmill trying to make it past 5 minutes. That might be me.
Yeah, and Rod Peters. I was just actually listening yesterday to actually this morning to Rod Peterson. Actually, the Rod Peterson show.
Long time Rough Riders guy. Like an institution there until recently.
Yeah. Have you checked his stuff out too?
I haven't in a while. I only have so much time.
No,
I listen to the politics broadcast. I've listened to the politics podcast too, and then I get all mad about them and put sports ones back on.
Oh, I know.
You know.
Oh, I know.
Working at 680 News Radio, you hear all the bad stuff, and you kind of go, "Oh, you have to." The worst was over COVID because, like, that's all we could talk about for months because that was it, and there was no sports, and it was all bad news. It was all bad news. But like, even now, you listen to Israel, Palestine, and Trump, and what's happening in south of the border, and global warming, and Elon Musk, and all that. And then once in a while, I'm kind of like, I just have to talk about the Jays. I got it lucky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, now, and the Jays, they were on a bit of a winning streak there.
Well, as we talk now, the streak ended, losing today, this last game against the White Sox. But
2-1?
2-1, close game. But it's been quite something. That it's not just the 10-game winning streak. They've had winning streaks before, but you really get a vibe that this team likes to play for each other and with each other. And they're getting it done with some significant injuries. Like, Vladdy had a slow start. Now he's coming on. Same for Bo. Bo was hurt for a big chunk of time. Santander has not been a big part of the lineup. They've lost Varsho twice, and he appears to be close, but they're doing it with guys like Addison Varger and Joey Lopafito's hitting home runs, and and like Tyler Heineman's doing bunch singles for RBIs, and it's one of those teams. The good teams are the ones when everyone contributes, and that's what they're all doing right now. And hopefully they can keep, when everyone's back, they can keep the chemistry going. Plus, they're talking, they need starting pitching, and Alek Manoah is close to throwing rehab starts, and maybe they get him back. It's like a trade deadline deal without trading anyone, Like, this could be a fun summer. We'll see.
I think they have to add some pieces at the trade deadline, though.
I think it's an easy assumption to say they do. I think, but also it's not like they have a lot of prospect capital to deal from. And so we'll see. I mean, this team reminds me, and the buzz around the team reminds me of 10 years ago when they got David Price and Troy Tulowitzki, and we were like, what? So nothing surprises me anymore. We'll see. I mean, they do need at least one more starting pitcher that's reliable. And if Max Scherzer is able to stay healthy, that's a bonus. If they get Alek Manoah back, if they get Bowden Francis back to his form of last year, that's a bonus. But I think they do need starting pitching, and they do need more reliable arm, maybe one more arm in the bullpen so that they're not all overtaxed. But, this 10-game winning streak kind of game came against the odds. Be interesting to see. The Yankees are back in July 21st. So after that big 4-game sweep, the Yankees will be mad about it. And I think that series, as well as the Jays played, the Yankees played terribly as well at times. And so I think you'll see a motivated Yankees team back at Rogers Center in a couple of weeks after the All-Star break. July 21st, I believe, is the first game of the series, again here at Rogers Center. And we'll see what really is happening. That's when the pennant race will really ramp up.
Absolutely. And what about the All-Star game? Are you going to watch the All-Star game? I think the baseball All-Star game is fun.
I think of all the All-Star games, baseball is the one that's closest to the real deal. Because like hockey, no one hits each other. Basketball, they just shoot from like everywhere, and it's like I think baseball is the one that's closest to replicating an actual major league game. I don't know if you saw the report today. They're bringing in the ABS umpiring system, so they'll be able to challenge strike calls that'd be for the All-Star games. That'd be a newer thing for them. Interesting that they're trying it there. It means we'll probably see it in Major League games next year. But, it'll be fun. It's the kind of thing you sit. If you have a patio, it's out there. Little alcoholic beverages, a little bit of a beverage in your hand. It's the middle of summer, nice and relaxing, and it should be a good game.
Yes.
You think George Springer should have gone?
Yes, I do. I really much do. I think he should have. I really think he should have been part of it because you know why? Because he because he's having a very good year this year. So right now, anyway, he's contributing to this streak right now. So yeah, he should have gone.
We're seeing so many injury replacements that it wouldn't surprise me if he somehow ends up there in the next few days. He gets added, but we'll see. He's having a renaissance year, surprising everyone. So it's one of the many reasons the Blue Jays are in the spot they are, leading the American League East.
Yeah, and 10 years ago, back in 2015, when they were actually in the when they made those signings of Troy Tulowitzki and David Price, it was during the Jerry Howarth days too.
There she goes. Oh yeah. Oh no, Ben Schulman's doing a great job on radio, and it was funny. They had the 4 games against the Yankees, and then on the Friday when they were playing, I'm going blank. Who they played next? The Angels.
The Angels.
And he wasn't sounding as excited. And at one point, I was driving around in the car listening. He goes, "Yeah, excuse the hoarseness. I got too excited against the Yankees," because he was like going all in.
Yeah.
In the screaming calls. So he's learning how to preserve the voice. Also, shout out Buck Martinez. Hopefully he gets better soon, and he's a part of this in the broadcast as well. Love Joe Siddle, but hope Buck is better soon.
Yeah.
But no, it's gonna be fun to watch. It should be a fun summer.
Yeah, Ben Schulman, Chris LaRue, they both do a great job.
They have chemistry. Like that's the
hardest
thing, right? They. I mean, the thing about baseball, you build that chemistry because you're sitting next to each other like 162 games a year. You're doing every game pretty much, right? So there's that. But he is. He's doing a great job, and they sound great, and Dan and Joe sound great, and let's do this. How about a pennant race? Let's have some meaningful games in September.
Yeah, and you know who else also, and Show Ali sounds good too on the post-game shows. When he
Love Show, good dude. There's a bunch of guys, him, Daniele, Mike Gentili, that were putting in their time. Gentili was actually, I worked with him at The Score when we had our Sirius station, Hardcore Sports Radio. He was like their main producer, as was Brian Hayes. No one knows that. Those guys have worked their butts up and now they're getting on-air chances, and they sound great. Show sounds amazing.
Oh, he sure does. And I'm looking forward to sharing the mic with you again real soon too.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it.
And Marley season.
Pardon me?
Well, we convene at Marley season.
Yeah, let's do that. And they can
seemed very far away.
Exactly, yes. And they can find you at Sports Voice Guy on social media.
At Sports Voice Guy on X and Insta and the occasional TikTok. I don't TikTok very much.
Are you on Blue Sky yet?
Yeah, but I'm hardly on there. I'm kind of everywhere. But somehow Sports Voice Guy wasn't taken when I signed up for all these. It's a miracle.
There you go. And we'll be back. We'll be doing some Jays trade deadline content as well here.
Thank you so much for listening and/or watching Broadcast Map. To learn more about the show, please visit broadcastmap.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email address and hit subscribe right on the homepage and at the bottom of all